Hello and welcome to the Entitled Show sponsored by funkidsguy.com, and this is our full review of Marvel's Ant-Man and the Wasp. If you haven't watched the movie, please, spoilers ahead.
So my favorite top moment was the relationship between Scott and Cassie Lang, and I feel that their emotional bond is what really services the emotional story for Scott Lang and for Hope as well.
Hope and Hank actually developed a better bond because of their reconciliation after the first Ant-Man film. But what really hit me was the way Scott reacted right after his escapade in Germany in Civil War and the lead up to this movie, because we never really understood where he was in Infinity War. Like, what the hell is going on? So this is actually a good way to show people his different priorities, because for me, Scott, Ant-Man, has always been a very different film from the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, in that it was always about Scott's relationship with his daughter, with his ex, with his police, the guy who replaced him basically, and also his business partner. So I really liked how it still maintains the same thematic quality with the rest of this mini franchise.
Yeah, it kind of is a mini franchise. To compare it with the likes of Infinity War and Black Panther, it doesn't have that grand scheme of things, but the story itself is very self-contained. It's all about what would you do to be with people that's most important to you. I think that's probably the message of the story.
It's really playing into the thought of the big things come in small packages kind of thing, really playing into the story. So we're gonna move on into the fight scenes, which we really loved. We agreed that Wasp is probably the most badass female character right now in the MCU.
Yep. I mean, knowing her from the comics, I always thought like, why is Wasp such an important Avenger? I mean, she's tiny. Like, what can one tiny person do? But this movie shows that just how great this sort of like the superpower is to manipulate size, and with her skills and her abilities, it really shows that she can take out a lot of bad guys.
And the beauty in this movie is that we get two versions of the Wasp, the same way that we get two versions of Ant-Man in the first movie. So we actually see Janet Van Dyne before this film 30 years ago, in that scene wherein she says goodbye to Hank as they were trying to prevent that disaster. And then we also see how Hope developed as a hero in her own right, not just in terms of fighting ability, but also in how she empathizes with her father's plight at the same time with Scott's plight. Because we get to see Hope as this very strong-willed, very strong, empowered female character in general, so to speak. She's probably one of the most boneheaded, so to speak, of characters in the MCU, in a good way, mind you. And we get to see not really her softening up, but more of her just connecting more to the different characters in this film, in this mini franchise.
So, talking about strong female characters, we've got on the other side, we've got Ghost, who is the villain of this film. And what I liked about her was the introduction of how she was introduced. So you see Wasp fighting off against these bad guys, and then in comes Ghost, like the next level of villain. And
I really like that it's a girl fight.
Yeah,
like it's a girl versus girl fight. Like, we don't see it a lot in the MCU.
Exactly, and her powers are actually quite unique in the MCU, and it's great that you can have a very good antagonist for Wasp's character. And so, as you know, it's a spoiler review, so in the trailers you're led to believe that it's Ghost who is the main antagonist, but there is sort of like a service secondary villain, but more of like an anti-hero.
Yes, Bill Foster is actually, well, he's very similar to his comic book counterpart, at least the writers and director Peyton Reed got that right. I liked how he was such a sympathetic figure in the greater scheme of things, way back to his days in S.H.I.E.L.D., how he related with Hank, and how he treated Ghost as a surrogate daughter right after that quantum entanglement explosion in the past.
That killed her parents.
Exactly.
And I actually initially thought that Goliath, who's Bill Foster, would actually be the sort of like the main villain, the secret main villain, but actually it still is Ghost, and how they really kept to the roots of the comic book, where Bill Foster was a superhero that, in the same way as Ant-Man, he's got a good heart, good intention. And actually there is no black and white sort of like features. You've got Ghost, who is really doing the things that she does because she just wants to live and she wants to survive. And at the end, it's believed that she would probably change, but I think I'm hoping that she does return again, becoming her villainy ways, because we really want some more fight scenes between her and Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Well, coming from that point, I really like also the very family-friendly vibe this film had, in that you see 3 different aspects of what a family is. So we see how Scott is with Cassie and his ex. Actually, I keep coming back to that because I was actually surprised that that side of the family was fixed. Actually, the way he can relate very well already with his ex-wife and Paxson, mind you, who had a significant turnaround since the first movie. And
there was a lot of hugging.
Exactly. That's a hugging involved. Very. I think people will very much like that aspect of the film. There's also the fact that the Pym family, supposedly Marvel's royalty, is back together again thanks to Janet playing the motherly role, because that's what you love to see develop in families, in movies in general.
There was actually a kind of a good joke where Janet, who was inside of I guess like sent an antenna inside Scott's head and acted like he was Janet, and holding both her family members' hands, and it was really such a funny moment, that scene. What was the
other family aspect of Bill Foster and Ava, the ghost, who Bill decided that he could not leave Ava right after the incident and raised her as his own daughter. And I like the fact that they kept the character straight, meaning a straight arrow, that he never wavered in his belief and faith in curing Ava's affliction. At the same time, he still maintained his friendship with Hank, in spite of what happened in their days with S.H.I.E.L.D. And I like the fact also that later on in the movie we see that still Bill Foster is with Ghost, and that we will probably see them in future films.
I mean, that's actually quite good that it didn't go as how I predicted, that Bill Foster was like a secret bad and he wanted
But
to...
you were surprised that you thought that she could have been his daughter.
Well, actually, I mean, like, they sort of had a sort of similar skin tone, and it could be. I mean, I'm glad that they sort of like... that people may have suspected that, but have sort of subverted that belief. And I also like the fact that Goliath wasn't a secret bad, but there was more depth, and there's a black and white sides there. It's sort of like
very gray area.
Very gray area. And actually, there's another family, the family of Scott and I guess the other ex-convicts. I think they really work well and services the comedy factor, especially Louis, right?
Yeah, Louis's monologue is still there, mind you, but I prefer the one he did in Ant-Man with Ignacio. Poor Ignacio. I want to see him again.
But for this, because what I liked about Ant-Man, what everybody really remembers and talks about in the first Ant-Man was Louis's monologue and how sort of like they were doing that lip syncing thing. And for this time, it was with Scott and Hope, and it was funny doing that. But actually, we didn't really see that with Michael Douglas's character. That would have actually been.
That
funny.
would be a clincher. I think that would be something we would
Maybe
love to see in
Ant-Man
the third Ant-Man movie.
With Janet as well.
Yeah, exactly. So
knowing how much those two characters, Hank Pym really doesn't like Louis's character.
I think Hank doesn't like a lot of people.
Yeah.
I like also the fact that Hank is very cranky, just like in his comic books. He's always been this outcast compared to the other heroes because he thinks that his genius is above a reproach, and that he's just basically someone who's very passionate about his work. He's very passionate about the things that he believes in, most especially his family. And I like that this was well translated from the comic books.
You know what? They did a really good job in portraying Hank Pym because his personality is something that a lot of people would get annoyed by, but actually there's not one moment where I did not like Hank Pym. I thought he was a very interesting character. He really services the plot. And the fact that, it's always so surprising the things that he invents, especially like when he shrinks the building that we saw from the trailer. So that's actually kind of one of a big favorite moment of mine when they were sort of like playing like tag or trying to everybody's after the building because it contains all of Hank's inventions and stuff, and that was kind of a really funny scene where everybody was sort of like after Hank's building.
So what did you think about Sonny Birch's group? Like they were also after the lab for an unknown buyer. Hopefully that gets revealed in the future movies.
I often wondered. I did wonder who is that secret buyer, and but those characters didn't really service anything. They were sort of like
they were just more like comedy.
The henchmen.
Yeah, they were just random. For me, it felt like they were trying to. This is one of the aspects of the film I think that didn't really stick with me. Is that what were they trying to accomplish with Birch's group?
Yeah.
They were trying to get the lab. They were trying to get the PIM technology and sell it off to the black market.
It's almost as though you needed like already an established group from the MCU out there. But I guess like they were needed there because you needed to see all the Hello Kitty thing. That wouldn't have worked for if it was just Ghost after them.
Yeah, that's amazing CGI work. Speaking of CGI work, we saw Michelle Pfeiffer, who plays Janet Van Dyne, and Michael Douglas again in all his Wolf of Wall Street glory. So that was incredible. The way that if they can pull that off, who exactly did the I believe it was Lola FX, the same people behind Benjamin Button's FX.
Yeah, that film was amazing for the visual effects. And the fact if they can do that, they can pretty much like bring back anyone. Like we saw with Star Wars, how they brought back certain characters. But it's exciting how like they can bring back anybody, and it'll be interesting to see more of what happened before the Avengers, like maybe in Avengers 3 that we see like maybe how does Lawrence Fishburne look as this young Goliath.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. For in terms of the one with the best display of visual effects, probably came from like the quantum realm.
Exactly.
Everybody was really excited to see more of that, and I'm sort of disappointed that we didn't get to see more of the world of what goes on. We saw that there were some like creatures that live there. But I was really hoping that they would map that place a bit more. What do you think?
Well, I don't know. I really liked how they depicted the quantum realm and the quantum void, where supposedly everything in terms of time and space didn't really matter. That was a very cool bit where he was trying to navigate himself away from trouble with those microscopic monsters. Like I think those called cryptogrates.
Okay.
Yeah, and then he tried to figure his way out of it. And actually, I recalled a lot of, based on the visual aspects, I recalled a lot of the scenes from Doctor Strange based on the visual effects. So maybe there's a connection there. The Dark Dimension, Dormammu.
That would be
maybe
interesting to see Dormammu
maybe the
next
quantum realm is a gateway for all the other dimensions in the MCU.
And when Janet was in there, she's developed a unique power, right? With her magic hands. I actually like that as a theme, that she has magic hands, and all throughout the movie it plays on that magic theme with illusion and sleight of hand, and now it pays off with Janet's character having magic abilities. But I did think that was a sort of Deus Ex moment when she sort of fixed Ghost's problem by just like touching her head. That's something that I wish they sort of resolved that problem in a different way.
Alright. So overall, I think aside from Randall Park's role, Agent Wu, I think this is a very good movie. Like, well, Randall Park from Fresh Off the Boat, the family. Well, he's just a character that's very interesting. But anyway, I think this movie, in the overall scheme of things, is a nice addition. I mean, people thought it would be a filler for what's to come in the next movies in 2019, but it exceeded my expectations as to what it wanted to accomplish.
I think it's sort of like I was a bit underwhelmed after watching it. I wish that they made a lot more. I mean, I get that they wanted to self-contain it, and it is a great self-contained movie. But I had high expectations for this movie, and I wish that they sort of like revealed a little bit more in this film. So if I were to rank this film, I'd say it's like, again, it's 6 out of 10 for you.
Well, I already ranked it at a 7 out of 10. So it doesn't really make my top 10 Marvel movies right now.
So let us know down below in your comments what you thought about the movie. What was your favorite moments?
Is it in your top 10?
Is it better than the first Ant-Man? So thanks again for watching our video. If you like more of our content, please subscribe, and look out for more reviews that we'll do in the future. Thank you. So I